Hello, everyone. So here we are. And I promised I would do a live. I'm just wanting to see if I can get this. Bear with me. Okay. I'm just trying to see if I can actually get this on my phone at the same time as recording on my laptop. That might be beyond my capabilities. Just in case there's any comments, that's all. If not, I may not be able to see you. Might not be. Here we go. Right, let's see how we go. Okay, I may not be able to see comments, but if I do, I will respond. So it just occurred to me that it might be a good opportunity this week to do a live because apparently I'm living in the hottest place in Europe this week. So the north of Spain is it's expected to be, I think right now it's 34 outside, it's midday, and it's expected to get up to 40 plus today and much the same for the next 3 or 4 days. So it occurred to me that you can tap for anything, so why not try tapping on how it feels when it's really hot? And I put out the question. You might wonder why it looks a bit weird behind me. I am sitting in the dark. So so the way to do things, this may be useful. This is very un-British. This is not what we do in the UK. When the sun shines, we open all the windows and the curtains and let the air in. But actually, when it's as hot as 34, and yesterday it was hot and windy, and it felt like standing in front of a hairdryer. So so you shut everything, so you keep it dark inside to keep the heat out, and then once the sun's set you open everything, and then first thing in the morning open everything before it gets too hot. So that's the system. So that might work if it gets super hot in England as well. You might want to shut everything, keep it dark. So I'm actually sitting in a dark, fairly dark room with the light on, which I know sounds bonkers, but actually it's very pleasant and very cool at the moment, although it's 34 outside. So there we are. So let's just have a think. So I asked the question, you know, what happens to you? How do people feel when it's hot weather? So my own things that when I was thinking about me, I get quite puffy. I get puffy hands, puffy feet. Fortunately, I live in a life where I don't really have to wear shoes, which is fortunate because I don't think any of my shoes would go on. And just as an aside, if you do get puffy feet, if you can sort of sit sideways right next to an empty wall and shuffle your bum as close as you can, and then swivel round, put your feet up the wall, lie down, 10 minutes of that, fantastic. It helps really depuff your ankles, so highly recommend that. But I don't particularly like the feeling of having puffy hands and feet. It's a bit uncomfortable. Lots of people, I know it's really common to feel really lethargic, really sleepy. That's not uncommon. And actually, sometimes it's almost that feeling that you feel like your brain won't work. You know, feel like you can't think clearly because it's so hot. Other things, so someone told me that they can often get panicky and anxious and quite suffocated feeling. Now, it's possible if you feel like your reaction to heat is quite extreme, it is possible that something maybe happened to you when you were in a hot environment, or, you know, some unwanted event occurred and your subconscious mind might link that event with the heat. So in fact, it might be two separate things, but your subconscious can get confused. So for example, if you were 3 and lost your mum somewhere and went into a bit of a panic, it might be that it was a really hot day, maybe you're at the fairground or something, and so your subconscious will link heat with the panic and with losing mum. Okay, if that makes sense. So that's very common. So if you think that's the case, or if you feel like your reaction to heat is quite a strong one, it's definitely worth exploring, but I'd recommend probably doing it with a practitioner. Worth exploring whether there is a link between your reaction to heat and something that happened in earlier life. Other things, not sleeping because it's too hot. That's a really common it's a common problem, but also people get very agitated and upset when they can't sleep, or when they think they won't be able to sleep. So people can get quite anxious about not sleeping. Okay, so that's definitely a thing. Prickly, dizzy, hot, all of those physical things. Sweating. I tend to get a very sweaty face and head. The rest of me is not particularly sweaty, but yeah, face and head. And it's a bit embarrassing, actually, because everyone else can be looking cool as a cucumber, and I'm just literally, you know, dripping, you know, off my face onto my lap and dripping down my clothes. So yeah, not a particularly attractive look, and slightly embarrassing, especially if you're with people you don't necessarily know well, or you know, you're in a meeting, something like that. Something else that comes up for me as well in hot weather is I can't bear flies inside the house. So I don't mind outside, but I can't bear flies buzzing around the house, and obviously that tends to be worse in hot weather, so that might be a thing as well. So that was something I thought I'd sling in. So keep hydrated is part of the message too. So if you've got a pen and paper, I think that's a good place to start. So have a little think about those things I just said. I'll run through them again and just see which of those apply to you. If you're not particularly hot right now, you might just want to imagine how it is when you are in a very hot environment. So some things I mentioned are being lethargic, being tired, feeling a bit suffocated, puffy and swollen, sweaty, dizzy, hot, prickly, headachy is another common one, not sleeping well. And then more on the emotional side, you might actually get a bit anxious, a bit panicky about the heat, maybe about flies, about what goes with the heat, about your inability to sleep. That might make you quite worried, quite anxious, especially if you've got a busy schedule. You might worry about not performing well at work because you feel you can't think straight. So just make a note of what's true for you. So which of those, if any, or you might have something else, that's fine. Which of those feel true for you? And maybe you've probably got more than one thing, so there might be a few things there. So just make a note of, out of 10, 10 being the absolute worst, how high you feel the score is for each of those things. So for me, a lot of it's more on the physical, actually. So the puffiness probably is about a 4 out of 10 for me. The dislike of that feeling puffy, because it makes my joints feel stiff because I'm puffed up. Sweaty, that's probably a 6. And the flies is probably a 10 or an 8. Yeah, when there's a lot of flies around, that's quite a big thing for me. Feeling lethargic and tired, it depends what I'm doing, but if I'm busy, I've got stuff to do, that can be quite frustrating actually for me. So that's probably about a 7. So there's quite a lot of things in there. So I'm going to do a few rounds of tapping, but what I'd really recommend, if you've got, say, 4 things on your list, is to come back to each thing on your list, repeat the tapping process for each different thing on your list, and just notice where the number is after each round of tapping. Okay, so let's go. So I'm going to say a lot of stuff. Some of it won't be applicable to you. Just choose the bits that are true. Even though when I'm really hot and in this hot weather, I feel lethargic, I feel tired, I feel suffocated. I can't sleep well. I worry I won't be able to sleep well. I get panicky and anxious. I can't breathe properly. It feels stifling. My hands and feet get puffy and swollen. I feel dizzy, hot, prickly and headachy. I get really sweaty, and that's embarrassing. I can't bear the flies and the insects when it's hot weather. But in spite of all that, I accept myself and I know I can survive this. Okay, take a breath in for 3 and out for 5. And just tap on the top of the head. This hot weather, the way it makes me feel physically, the way my body feels when I'm hot. I might be puffy and swollen. I might be sweaty. I might be dizzy and prickly. I might be headachy. I may not be able to sleep. And actually something I've just thought about sleep, sometimes we have strange dreams when we're hot. I might get really weird dreams. All these physical symptoms of the heat, the way I physically feel when the weather is hot. I'm puffy, I'm swollen, I'm sweaty, I'm dizzy, I'm prickly, I'm headachy, I can't sleep well. All of these feelings when the weather's hot. By the way, if the tapping points are a bit unfamiliar, just hop over to my YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the comments and you can learn them. But otherwise, just tap on the points that you can see me doing, and don't worry, don't get in a panic about not getting them accurate. Back to the side of the hand. All of these physical symptoms that I get when I'm hot, even though I have them, I get lethargic, I get tired, I get sweaty and puffy, I can't sleep well, I get dizzy, hot, prickly and headachy. But I accept myself and I know I can survive this. It's just a few days of hot weather. I can survive this. These physical symptoms, I'm lethargic, just want to sleep, but I can't sleep because it's too hot. When I do sleep, I have funny dreams, vivid dreams. I feel all puffy and swollen up. I get really sweaty. I pour with sweat. I get a headache. I get prickly. Sometimes I get dizzy. Sometimes I just feel so hot, it's like my body is an oven. I really don't like the feeling of being so hot. I can't cool down in this hot weather. All this prickliness, headachiness, puffiness, swelling, sweatiness. But I can survive this, and I know it's not forever. And I have solutions that I can employ. So in terms of your solutions, I mentioned the feet up the wall, lovely one. Just cool bathing, a cool cloth on the back of your neck. If you can keep your hands and feet cool, that really helps. So just running your insides of your wrists here under a cold tap is really good, or putting your feet in cold water can be really helpful. Obviously keeping hydrated, keeping out of the sun as much as you can. And it sounds a bit weird, but keeping still. So doing all your things, the stuff you have to do early in the morning when it's still quite cool, and the rest of the time, you know, try not to move too much if it is hot. Okay, so we've done a couple of rounds on the physical. You might just now check in to see where you are on your scale, so your number scale. Obviously, if it's not hot right now, you might not be feeling it anyway, but just check in, see where the number is, and repeat if necessary. So we're going to move now more on to the emotions, okay? So I know a lot of people suffer more in humidity than in just hot, dry. That's really common. So I'm going to cover that off a bit. And also the anxiety that might come up when you check the weather forecast. Yeah, so it's a bit like people who are obsessed a bit about their weight and they weigh themselves every day. And you might be someone who gets anxious about the weather, and you might be checking the forecast 3 times a day. Oh no, it's going to be extra humid and it's going to be really hot, and you know, whatever. So let's just talk a little bit about the emotions you feel when you see that it's going to be hot. So I'd just like you to tune into that. Now this is going to be really individual, but common ones are likely to be panicky, anxious, worried, thinking, how am I going to get through my day? How am I going to work? How am I going to sleep? How am I going to go out? How am I going to get my shopping done? How am I going to get from car to air-conditioned supermarket? How close will I be able to park? How am I going to get a pair of shoes on? Okay, so going to be worry, anxiety, most likely. Okay, how am I going to think clearly? How am I going to perform in that meeting, that interview, whatever it is you've got? coming up. You know, how am I going to keep my head clear? So I just invite you now to tune into the emotions when you see that it's going to be really hot or really humid or both. Just tune into that and notice what emotions come up. You can say them out loud. It might be panic, anxiety, worry. Notice where you feel the emotion. So just see where in your physical body, very, very often we feel emotion down the center line. So it can be here in the head, throat, chest, stomach. They're the most common places, but it might be somewhere else. It's fine. There's no rules. It's all individual. And I try and structure these sessions to make them specific to you so that you can bring in whatever's true for you. Okay, just acknowledge that feeling, that emotion, or those emotions that you've got right now. They're just emotions. It's okay to sit with them. And just score them out of 10. So where are you there with that worry, that panic and anxiety, whatever is going on? Where are you with that? Out of 10, 10 being the worst. And just say these words to yourself or out loud, whichever's most appropriate, even though I feel these feelings and I have these emotions. When I look at the forecast and I know it's going to be hot and it's going to be difficult for me when it's hot. But I choose to accept myself anyway. And I've been in hot before and I've survived. I got through this and I know I can do it. Even though I have these emotions in my body, and just say out loud where in your body you're feeling it. But I choose to accept that I have these emotions, these feelings, and I know I can survive this. Let's just say that once more. Even though I have these feelings and emotions, when I look at the weather forecast and I know that it's a hot day, it's going to be hot weather. It makes me feel all these things and it feels like a something out of 10, whatever the number is for you. But I accept I have these emotions and I know I will survive this. Tap on the top of the head. These feelings and emotions inside the eyebrow, all these emotions in my body, outside the eye, all these emotions, and just say where in your body they are. Tapping under the eye, these emotions that are a whatever they are out of 10. These emotions when I think about the hot weather, under the mouth. These emotions when I think about all the things I won't be able to do easily and comfortably, under the collarbone. These emotions that are going to make my life difficult for a few days, under the arm. These emotions when I know that the weather's going to be hot. Tapping across the wrist. I get all these emotions. Tapping next to each finger in turn. Maybe I feel panicky and anxious. Maybe I feel worried. Maybe I get jittery that I won't be able to sleep well. Maybe I get worried that I'm going to be sleepy and lethargic and I won't be able to perform well at school, at home, at work. Maybe I'm concerned I won't be able to think clearly. On the back of the hand, I can survive this. I have done before. I'll get through it. It'll be okay. Tapping on the side of the hand. Just take a breath. In for 3 and out for 5. Okay. And I just invite you to tune in now. You're looking at the weather forecast. You're seeing what's coming up. You're looking at today's weather, tomorrow's weather, the weekend weather. And just notice how strong those emotions are. Okay, and we're going to include a few more things now. I'm going to include things like maybe the embarrassment around being sweaty, the difficulty of having a clear conversation, the concern that you might be invited to something that's outside and you don't really want to be outside. You want to be inside in the dark like me with a fan blowing on you, whatever it is. Maybe it's freaking out about the flies in your house. Okay, So we're just going to, if you still feel that the panic, anxiety, whatever it was, still quite high, just pause, go back, do that round again. Okay. So this time we're going to think about other things that are maybe a little out of your control, things like flies, think about sweating, the emotions around that. So for me, I'm going to think about the flies. And when I tune into that feeling about the flies, it's because they're stupid little things, but I cannot control them. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? And there's probably a lot of aspects in my life that make me feel uncomfortable when I can't control it. So there you are, confessions from an EFT practitioner and trainer today. So let's just tune into the emotions you feel about the weather, and actually being out of control is probably a really common one because it's one thing that we have very, very little control over, isn't it? Let's just tune into that. So maybe it's embarrassment over the sweating, or inconvenience over being so hot and sweaty and red and puffy and whatever. Maybe it's feeling out of control. Maybe it's something else altogether. Just tune into those emotions around the hot weather. Can't control the weather, but I can maybe take a little bit of control over how I feel about it. Okay. Just notice what you're feeling now and just tune into that and score it out of 10. Even though I have these emotions about the flies, about the sweating, about the weather forecast, I accept myself anyway. And I acknowledge that I cannot control the weather, but I can make a difference to how I feel about it. I can't control the weather, I can't control the flies, maybe I can't control that I sweat, but I can control how I feel about it. I can choose to feel embarrassed or impatient or annoyed, or I can choose to feel calm. And maybe today I'll choose to feel calm, or I'll be embarrassed, impatient, annoyed, or I can be calm. I can choose to feel panicky and anxious, or I can choose to feel calm. I can choose for this to be a positive or a neutral experience, or I can choose for it to be horrible. I can choose to take it easy for a few days whilst it's hot, or I can choose to get into a bit of a fretty mess over it. I can make the decision on how I feel today. And just for now, I'm going to choose to feel calm. Let's just do that again. Top of the head. Maybe it's embarrassing if I'm sweaty or panicky or anxious. Maybe I can just make a little joke of it. Maybe I can just say I don't cope well with the heat. Maybe I can just smile and choose to read a trashy novel and lie in a cool place. Maybe I can do the minimal amount of work. Maybe it's all right if the house gets dirty and I don't do the hoovering. Maybe it's fine if I lay off my exercise for a few days. Maybe I'll just get up early and take a gentle walk or do some yoga in a dark room. Maybe I'll just lie with my feet up the wall and that'll be my exercise today. The world won't end. I can survive this. I've done it before. It's only a number on the thermometer. It's only all the weather guys getting excited because it gives them something good to talk about. Along with everybody else I meet who talks about nothing but the weather. They even do that in Spain, you know. And I'm okay. I can survive this. Whenever I feel overwhelmed with emotion, I can just do some tapping. All this emotion, all these feelings, these physical feelings, these emotional feelings, I can get through this. I can easily survive this There's lots of techniques I can use to keep myself cool. I'll be okay. I will survive. I can look on it as just a few days of restorative me time when I just chill out and do very little. And maybe that's what the universe intends when we get a hot spell. Just wants us to do not much. It's just time to relax. I'll meet that deadline, or I can push back that deadline. It's going to be okay. I can do this. Okay. Just take a breath. And if you want to, if you're able to, maybe bring up the weather forecast, just see how that looks, what the humidity is looking like, what the temperatures are looking like over the next few days. I'm just going to look at mine, which last time I looked was a pretty scary number. So let's see if I can share it with you on the screen. Okay, so it's showing later today will be 40 and the same tomorrow and the same on Saturday and cooling down to a nice 39 on Sunday. So here we are. I don't know if you can see that. Possibly, there we are. I think it's just not sure if you can see it very well. So hot. And actually now I've done that bit of tapping and I'm thinking about flies. You know, it's going to be okay. I'm just going to take it easy for a few days, catch up on some admin and yeah, just lie in a cool place. So I'd love to know, thank you for the likes, I'd love to know how that was. And let me know how you feel. Let me know how your physical symptoms are, your emotional symptoms are, and whether that's been helpful for you. I think in the UK it's not really getting hot till Saturday, so it may be that this will come into its own in a few days' time, not necessarily today. But let me know how that was, and I'd love your feedback. Okay, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to put it on YouTube. If anyone missed it, I'll put the link up later. And yeah, best wishes and keep cool and enjoy it. Maybe just enjoy it. Imagine you're on holiday. Take care. Bye-bye.